Hey everybody, Hunter back again from Showtime Studios. Got my magnifier on here for this video. I had a lot of requests on how I add the shims to the side of panels like a hood or a trunk or even the doors on the Corvette to take up the gap that's in there when you glue the parts together. So in the last video that we done, I showed you that I had the pieces glued to the side of the hood. Now what we're going to do today is go through and trim these down and sand them. I'll show you the steps on how to do that, and then it's just a matter of doing your primer and your sanding on top of that to blend everything in, and keep checking your part fit on your model. And once you get it to the point where it looks good, you'll be ready for paint. So first step that we have is, like I say, the hood was about, right now I'm looking at probably 30 thousandths too narrow. So what I ended up doing is using 15 thousandths sheet plastic, and I put a piece on each side. And how I did that is I used the Tamiya extra thin. You can super glue these pieces. I don't really recommend the super glue because it is brittle, especially when you're trying to file this back out or sand it or anything like that. The super glue will tend to break, the joint will break loose and the piece will just fall off, or it'll stick in one area and then break loose in the back somewhere or in the front. So I highly recommend to do this, to use the Tamiya extra thin or any type of liquid glue. The extra thin seems to work real well because you have the very small brush in here. And we're not going to put any on this because this is dried overnight. But you want to dip a little bit of the Tamiya extra thin, and then you want to come on the edge of your hood and just lay down a bead all the way down the hood, if a hood's what you're working on. And then you take your piece of plastic that you have cut, and you want to make sure you cut it longer than the piece that you're doing, and also taller. And just set that into place on top of your glue bead and press that in. And make sure that it sticks, around all your contours and stuff on the hood. This hood here is shaped like a V, so it's not too bad, but it does kind of kick back in on the back corners. So I had to keep pulling it over like this to get the glue to set. But once this extra thin takes hold, it works pretty good. And then once you have that stuck into place, you'll have extra material sticking out the bottom, and you also have extra material sticking out the top. What I do is turn the hood upside down to start out with, dip the brush in the Tamiya extra thin, and then I run that whole line against the bottom edge of the hood all the way back, dip again, and do the other side all the way back. And then I will turn the hood over and do the same procedure down the top side on both sides. And then I'll let that sit overnight. You don't want to try to rush that because it takes a little while for this Tamiya extra thin to do what it's designed to do, and that's basically melt the plastic together. So you're melting a little bit of the kit hood, and you're melting a little bit of the 15 thousandths, and that's what makes the bond. So give it overnight to dry, and then you can come in and not have any problems with the next step. So that's where we're up to now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in with the hobby knife, and I'm going to put my magnifiers down here so I can watch what's going on. And basically all I do is just come in and very lightly just trim this down. And this is what I call roughing it in right now. I'll get it down close to the to where I actually want it to be finished to. But you don't want to try to take the hobby knife and make it a cut all in one pass. You can actually turn it up on end like this, and you can take the hobby knife and come right down through here. But I don't like doing that because if the hobby knife gets a little bit of a lean to it, you're going to end up with an angle. And then you'll have to go back in and do fill work on it. And usually with this technique, you don't have to do any filling at all. If the glue has bonded the way that it should and you've let it dry, you should be able to come in and just cut the excess off and give it a little bit of a sanding, and it's ready to go. So, and we're only going to do one side of this for the tutorial, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing a hood or you're doing a trunk or you're doing a door. It's all the same, it's the same procedure on all of them no matter what. So now I'm just coming in and I'm cutting the plastic down just a little bit closer to the surface of the hood. And what I like to do at this point is actually guide the knife with the hood, keeping the tip. Make sure that your tip doesn't gouge into your the flat surface of your hood or any raised detail or anything that you have. So now that we've got the top side trimmed down there, we're going to flip the hood over and we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. And like I say, this is not a hard procedure. It works very well. It does take a little bit of time to do, a little bit of patience, but if you want parts that fit, you know, a little bit tighter than they do in the kit, this is a very good thing to learn how to do. And, you know, I'm showing you the steps that I do. I'm sure that if you're sitting at your own workbench, you can come up with, you may come up with a faster way or a better way that works for you. This tutorial is just to get you in the neighborhood and, you know, show you what you can do with a couple pieces of scrap plastic. And this is also the way that I do it. So, you know, give it a shot and see what happens. And, you know, you might find something that works a little bit better for you. But we're back. We got the bottom side all trimmed down now. Now I'm back on the top side. I'm taking just a little bit more off. And we are actually looking pretty good right there. Okay, now the next step that we're going to do is the sanding process. Now on this particular hood, it does have some cast-in hood pins. And I'm still on the ropes whether I'm going to use those or not. They're actually not shaped right, but I am trying to keep this as a box stock kit, so they may have to stay that way. So just make sure that you don't have any raised detail or anything that you're hitting with the sanding stick. And I also highly recommend using just a sanding stick on this and not just a piece of sandpaper, because with the sanding stick you can actually come in and you can get the new piece that you added sanded down right flush with the hood. And everything will look real nice. If you're doing it with a piece of regular sandpaper with your finger, you tend to want to get ups and downs in it. And that's why I always use these sanding sticks. I mean, they keep everything nice and flat. So you just want to kind of work that back and forth with the sanding stick and get it down flush with the top surface of the hood. And the one thing I need to mention here, and this is something that I've done in the past that I learned not to do, when you're sanding this, make sure that you sand with the material. Don't sand across the material, because what will happen is it puts more wear and tear on your glue joint, and it can gap the glue joint open, especially if the sandpaper, you know, the sanding stick catches somewhere. Like right here on the ends, I have it's sticking past just a little bit on the front edge. I don't know if you'll see it there, but the material right here that we added is sticking past the edge of the hood just a little bit. You don't want to sand to the outside of that. What you want to do is take your sanding stick and you just want to work that down, pushing toward the hood. And that way you're not putting any tension on the joint. You're just sanding it down and getting it right flush with the front side of the hood. And then I always come in a little bit and just make sure I get the edges of it sanded real good, and make sure that it's pretty flat. And like I say, it's nothing hard about it. It's actually it's a fun process to do, especially when you really tighten the gap up on the car and you look at it and you go, wow, that made a big difference. You know, that's where it really comes into play, and you're real happy with the results of it. So, you know, and it takes a little bit of a learning curve to do. The hardest part is getting this, you know, the plastic to actually glue to the hood. Once you get that part down, the sanding and everything is just like sanding a mold line out for the most part. So nothing, you know, hard about any of that. And, you know, this is not only a tutorial for the beginning guys out there. Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't really recommend this procedure for somebody that's just starting out in the hobby. I think there's a lot more that, you know, you want to learn as far as the basics and putting a model together than trying to go in and fill gaps in. That's something for the more intermediate modelers and advanced modelers. And you know, but if you're a beginner and you want to try it, you know, give it a shot, try these techniques or this, you know, my technique on it and see how it works. And if you find something as you're doing that, you find a better way to do it, then great. That's what it's all about. But that's what we have right now. I don't know if I can get a good view of the part there, but we have 15 thousandths of an inch added all the way down this side of the hood, and you can see that it's all blended in now. And the next step would just be go in and do this side, get it all trimmed down, put it in a coat of primer, and check and make sure that you don't have any, you know, gaps or anything like that in it. You shouldn't if you put the Tamiya glue on the right way. And, you know, make sure you get an even bead all the way down it and press everything together. You should be good to go. So hopefully that explains how I, you know, go about doing the adding shims to the parts. And what I'll do is go ahead and finish up this side of the hood off camera, and we'll get all that prep. We'll get it in a coat of primer, and then we will put it on the painted body, and I'll show you in a video how that came out when we're done. So that's all we've got for this video. Any questions or concerns or whatever, leave me a comment on it, and I'll be more than glad to answer them for you. So until next time, this is Hunter from Showtime Studios, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.